Prime Field.
What if I told you the only thing standing between UConn and total tactical perfection is the most basic, brutal, unsexy part of basketball? Not shooting, not passing, not pace, rebounding. Because right now, the #1 team in the nation, 24-0, a 40-game win streak dropping 90 a night, is playing like the opponent's missed shot is an automatic stop. But the tape says something else. Misses are turning into extra lives. And if Butler shows up with a plan to crash, grind, and steal possessions, this hidden danger becomes the only speed bump on the road to undefeated history. Let's start with the crime scene. February 4th at DePaul. UConn wins 86-40. Absolute demolition. DePaul shoots 27.8% from the field. So how do you even complain? Easy. DePaul got 12 offensive rebounds. 12. In elite basketball, a defensive possession doesn't end when the opponent misses. It ends when you secure the ball. And UConn didn't secure it enough. The Huskies basically told DePaul, go ahead, take nearly a third of your misses back. That's how you get a blowout that still contains a warning label. Now zoom out. Last two games versus DePaul. 12 offensive boards allowed versus Tennessee. 11 offensive boards allowed. That's 23 extra chances across 80 minutes. Tell me that doesn't matter. Tell me a tournament-level team won't turn those into a run. Let's quantify it. Defensive rebounding percentage basically asks, when they miss, do you end the possession? Versus DePaul, 70.0% defensive rebounding versus Tennessee, 73.2%. Defensive rebounding championship standard, you want to live above 75-78%. So what are we seeing? Not a one-game fluke. A trend. And here's the scary part. This isn't a talent problem. It's a mindset problem. UConn is starting to treat the opponent's shot like the starting gun for the break. Not the final exam of the defensive possession. They're thinking, run first, rebound second. That's the Leakage Blueprint. Now let's be fair. UConn's transition game is basically a cheat code. They're built on pace, space, and surgical passing. 24.4 assists per game. A box out and go philosophy that turns rebounds into instant layups. But here's the trade-off. When you prioritize leakouts, you risk giving away possessions. And the DePaul micro story, it's loud. There were sequences where, while the shot was in the air, multiple Huskies were already sprinting out past half court before the rebound was secured. So who's left behind to fight? Usually Sarah Strong and Serah Williams against 3 or 4 crashers. And when the miss is a long rebound, like off a 3, those guards are nowhere near it. That's how bottom of the standings teams get free second chances. And if DePaul turned 12 offensive rebounds into 10 second chance points, imagine what a sharper team does with those same opportunities. 10 becomes 18. 18 becomes pressure. Pressure becomes a fourth quarter problem. Now let's talk structure. UConn's lineup versatility is a weapon, but it creates a very specific vulnerability. Small ball, 4 perimeter players plus 1 post, or 2 mobile forwards pulled away from the rim, spacing, elite, tempo, deadly. But it creates a rebounding vacuum on the weak side block. So when the rim protector rotates to contest on the strong side, who seals the weak side? Often a guard. And if that guard is already leaning out to start the break, that weak side block becomes a welcome mat. We saw it. DePaul gets an early putback because UConn didn't seal the backside of the rim. That's not effort. That's priorities. And here's the loudest stat in the whole brief. There were stretches where UConn's starting guards plus Serah Williams combined for 0 rebounds. That means Sarah Strong is doing the one versus many job on the glass, and nobody survives that forever. Now add this layer. UConn's been living in a switch-everything world. On the perimeter, it's beautiful. It erases actions. It keeps you connected. But on the glass, switching creates chaos. Suddenly, KK Arnold is attached to a forward inside. Ashlyn Shade is trying to box out someone with size and leverage. They might be in positions, but not in power. And it creates something even worse. Rebound confusion. Who's responsible for who in the switch scrambles assignments? That's how Tennessee's size found gaps. Alyssa Latham, 5 offensive rebounds. Z Spearman, 4 offensive rebounds. DePaul did it too. Kate Novick racks up 9 rebounds by living in those mismatched pockets, so the scheme is working. Until the shot goes up, and then the possession is still alive. Now here comes the matchup. Butler. Their record doesn't scare you, but their identity should. Butler's whole path to competitiveness is simple. Steal possessions. Control the glass, slow the game. They're disciplined rebounders. And the brief says they're 39th nationally in offensive rebounding percentage, grabbing 36.2% of their own misses. That is exactly how you neutralize UConn's biggest weapon, because crashing the offensive glass doesn't just create second chance points. It prevents UConn from running. No rebound equals sign, no break. No break equals sign half court game. Half court game equals sign fewer possessions. Fewer possessions equals sign closer game. And Butler has out-rebounded 16 of 21 opponents. That's not random, that's identity. So ask yourself, what happens if Butler turns this into a grind? What happens if UConn has to play boring basketball for 40 minutes? Hit, find, secure, repeat. Now we get to the rotation chess move. If Butler starts stacking offensive rebounds early, Geno Auriemma has a lever he can pull. Kaylee Heckel, not for scoring, for stability. Heckel is a traditional board sealer. She lives in hit and find. Her numbers are modest because her minutes are limited, but her value is specific. When things get physical, she's an anchor. And this is the key. If the boards slip, Heckel's minutes are not a bonus. They're a countermeasure. So watch the first half like a coach. If Butler starts creating extra chances, does Geno go to Heckel earlier to stop the leakage? Now let's talk closing 5, because this is where championship habits get built. The closing unit can't be leak-out obsessed. It has to be possession obsessed, and that puts a spotlight on Serah Strong. Everyone talks about the points, the playmaking. 19.4 points per game, 4.5 assists, but tonight her real job is simpler. Be the board sealer. When Strong is rebounding at a double-digit level, UConn's defensive possession ends cleanly. And the transition machine becomes unstoppable because it's built on secure possession. We've seen the pattern versus DePaul. 6 rebounds, lower than her baseline, versus Tennessee. 9 rebounds versus Notre Dame. 11 rebounds against Butler. She needs that double-digit mindset. Hit first, find second, run third. Because if Strong is chasing rebounds instead of sealing bodies, Butler will live on the weak side. And finally, in the X factor, Serah Williams. She blocks shots, she alters angles, she forces heaves. But here's the hidden danger in our game right now. Contest. Without closure. DePaul game. She impacts shots, but finishes with 0 rebounds in significant minutes. That's not a skill issue. That's a mental sequence issue. At Wisconsin, she was required to secure the ball to start everything. At UConn, the system is so fast that she can get pulled into contest and sprint mode. But against Butler, she has to return to what the brief calls Wisconsin form, a two-handed rebounder who owns the glass. Because if she's anywhere near her career rebounding baseline, 8 to 10 boards, Butler's entire plan collapses. No extra possessions, no grind, no way in. So here's the big takeaway before Saturday. UConn's greatest strength, transition speed, is also the doorway to their only real weakness. The Leakage Blueprint is simple. Leak out early, switch everything, play small, and leave the weak side exposed. DePaul and Tennessee proved the warning sign. Double-digit offensive boards allowed in both games. Now Butler is coming with a mission: crash the glass, slow the tempo, and make UConn play a half-court game. So the measuring stick on Saturday isn't just the scoreboard, it's the offensive rebounding column. If Butler stays in single digits, UConn's hidden danger is neutralized. The machine keeps rolling. My question for you, what's the first adjustment you want to see Saturday? Guards staying home, Ice Brady earlier minutes, or Serah Williams making closure her priority?
Prime Field.